Okay, what I would like to do is I'd like to go over now into Throg's Neck. Throg's Neck is on the other side. The bridge, there was a little wooden bridge over the Westchester Creek, which I told you coursed north. There was a grist mill on the south side of the street, of the bridge, right about where that fencing is, right in front of us, the north-south fencing, and that was right on the creek. And there was a sluice, and as the water came up, this was the tidal creek, one of the gates would open and the water could flow freely north, but in order to come south, that would shut down, and the water was released slowly to turn the grist mill. It would come through what they call a mill race, and turn the mill, which would grind the wheat. So that was there for many, many years. I should mention too, since we're standing here, that some of you probably noticed this monument. The monument toward my left here. That monument was put there by the Schildwachter family, and it was dedicated on May 22nd, 1993. And it says, on October 12, 1776, a critical revolutionary battle was won by keeping the British from crossing Westchester Creek Bridge and surrounding swamplands. At nearby Dock Street, tall ships landed cargoes and travelers for over 2 centuries. We're going to talk about the battle, but I was saving that until we get on the other side of the bridge. The Schildwachter family have an oil business here. Fred Schildwachter was born in Waldeck, Germany, and came over to America in the 1880s. And he got involved with first with his uncle's carriage trade, and then he got into the ice business. And he started an ice company in 1904. At first he just retailed ice. He bought it from wholesalers. And then he started going up to Rhinebeck, New York, and cutting his own ice. And he developed a great big fleet after a while. And in 1922, when they started manufacturing ice, you didn't have to go cut it anymore. He opened up a plant on Westchester Avenue. It was at 1779, the address, 1779 Webster Avenue, and his stables were on Park Avenue between 175th and 176th Street. Everything was delivered by horse and carriage at the time. And they manufactured the ice, and they had an ice plant over here too, right where that school is. And eventually they wanted to build this parkway, this Hutchinson River Parkway, for the World's Fair that was coming up in 1939. So in 1935 they demolished his Hygira ice plant, and he moved and bought this property across the street, across the creek. And he developed that, and he went into coal and oil also. Another train, just give me a second. Moved across the street. He kept his office there, which remained there until 1955. Some people will remember the little tiny office. But he went into oil, and his first acquisition was a million gallons. And later on, he bought the Waymeyer coal towers. Anybody remember from this area when they had big old coal towers up here? Waymeyer Coal, is said. He bought that in 77, and the following year, 78, he knocked it down, and he built a storage facility for 2 million gallons of oil. So now he had the facilities to store 3 million gallons, and you could buy it a lot cheaper and sell it cheaper. So he got involved with the oil business. In the early years, what he used to do, he used to have convertible trucks. He used to put an oil tank on the truck in the winter, and then come summer, he'd take that tank off, and he'd use it for ice. Those were the years when every woman had an ice box. Before refrigerators came into being, you needed a little block of ice to stick in. You're too young to remember. But some of us are old enough to remember when the Iceman used to come around, and everybody would buy their big block of ice for a nickel or a dime or whatever it was.
Well, Westchester Creek is still navigable up to the Schildwachter oil plant.
Yeah, Westchester Creek as...
This is delivered by oil barge.
Yeah.
By
Yeah, as Ed Schmidt was saying, Westchester Creek is still navigable, and Schildwachter still does get his deliveries by barge. If you ever have occasion to stop by Schildwachter's facility, in his antechamber there, if you go in, he has some nice old photographs you might like to look at. We're going to, anybody have any more questions? Anything at all about anything? Okay. Old Dock Street is still, a little piece of it is still there. That was demapped. When they bought this property, Schildwachter bought it and he gave a long-term lease, I believe, to White Castle. That was in 1993. But Dock Street was demapped. Dock Street was the oldest street in the Bronx. And there's still, pieces of it are still there. You can see the cobblestones if you want to look as we walk. We're going to go east now into Throg's Neck. And then we'll talk a little about the Battle of Westchester Creek.
So, can I ask you, the battle?
We stop here briefly because it's an intersection. We like to stop at the various intersections and tell you about the little streets that we pass. This is Little League Place. Up until 1984, it was called Tan Place, T-A-N. And there's a lot of reasons why they come up with that derivation. One was that there might have been a tannery here. I don't know if I believe it or not. Up until 1984, when it was Tan Place, there was a tremendous little hollow. You went down a hill, it was a mud road, and then up a hill. And it was terrible trying to get through it after a rain. You couldn't really get yourself bogged down. In 1984, they changed the name to Little League Place in honor of the Pelham Bay Little League. And there is a Little League game going on right behind us right now. Right behind LJAM here, this is a little lumber facility, storage facility, is the Little League field, Pelham Bay Little League. That Little League field was built in 1989, and Ed Koch threw out the first ball. He was the mayor at the time. Not only did he throw out the first ball, the shovel that he used for the groundbreaking, he took a swat at a ball with that. I don't know. I always wanted to find out who the pitcher was. The following year, 1990, the entire complex back here, sport complex, the Little League field, was renamed for Mike DeMarco. Mike DeMarco is the local city councilman who lives down in Country Club. He's a local boy, and his office is right on the corner of Tremont and Westchester Avenue. It would be the northwest corner. Any questions? Okay, right about here is the, by the way, is where the, this would be, we're just now approaching the, what would be the west side of the bridge, the wooden bridge that came across. We would now be on the Throg's Neck side, okay? That would be Westchester Village over there, and this is Throg's Neck. So we're now on the Throg's Neck side of the bridge, which no longer exists. That was called the Old Swain Bridge. It was they say it was, at one time it was used as a dam. It was a bridge and dam for that mill that was old, that old grist mill. But they called it the Swaying Bridge. They called it the Swain Bridge for lovers. There were a lot of different names for the old wooden bridge. Okay, it was very important, this here bridge, and the waterway itself was rather wide, and I'm going to tell you why when we get to the other side. Okay, I want to get down by the church first. Okay, shall we walk? What?
Before you go, I'd like you to turn around and take a look at that. Take a look at that artificial turf, everything, and from there all the way out to the end of the high school. That was the harbor, and it was hard to believe that they had windjammers there coming upstream. Of course, they can't tack. They used to get rowed up by rowers. I mean, by their own crew, and there was a tannery there, and there was a brickyard and so on. And I think I'm the last of the stevedores, because when I was a kid of 14 and 15, we'd come down here to unload the barges, the cement bags and everything. But we had to time it for the lunch hour, because the stevedores had their lunch. So there were a couple of people, including myself, would go in there and we'd unload for our own stuff. And every bag is 95 pounds, and I think I was about 96 pounds. But right about there, actually, there was some experiment. What's his name? He's a folk singer.
Burl Ives.
Burl Ives. Burl Ives had a Chinese junk that was moored there for a few years too, and.